Hello, 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 hello. This is episode number 4 of the OverDubs podcast. I am your host, Austin Keetoff, and with me is Mr. Tyler Conley. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. So, what do you do? You play drums, right?
I do.
think so. I'm not sure. I think he does.
From time to time. Been known to dabble in the percussion
In the
field.
percussion room. In the wonderful world of percussion. How long you been playing drums? Give us like a whole kind of history rundown. What got you into it? Let's start there. Yeah, what got you into it?
Yeah, sure. Well, my dad used to be a drummer too. I remember when I was really little. I remember going to gigs with my family and we would watch him for a little bit. And then he kind of stopped doing that full time once he got a teaching job. So I don't have a lot of memories of that, but I would say music was always in my life because of that. And just like both my parents are big music heads. Like, I feel like most kids, like they grew up fans of the Beatles, that their parents were big Beatles fans. So of course Beatles were like probably the first big band when I was like in kindergarten listening to. I would say, and then like when I got to grade school, I think in 4th grade, I went to a small private school and they had like a band program and I auditioned for that. And then, you just kind of try a bunch of instruments and then, like anything, you're not going to be good, but like,
You're trying.
You're trying. But like, I think I just picked drums right away because it's like, it's like kind of like an easy to start off with because you don't have to worry about with other instruments like pitch or tone, or it's just kind of, if you can follow the beat and keep good rhythm, then like you can kind of pick that up pretty quickly. So I started with concert band and then I played that throughout high school too. And I did jazz band in high school. And then I got into actual drum set in like 8th grade, I would say. And then I've had years when I've kind of been playing like on and off for drum sets. So, but yeah, so it's definitely always stuck with me.
Shit, there you go. Aside from Jesus Christ, Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
Who were the drummers for you then? That like you heard them, because everybody's got that musician and their respective instrument, whatever they play. They're just like, that's the sound. That's the guy right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to pick just one. Of course, Dave Grohl, amazing instrument. Multi-instrument, really, both guitar player and singer and drummer. Of course, with Beatles, there's Ringo Starr, which, of course, everyone makes the joke, like, Ringo wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles.
Yeah.
So, but Ringo, people don't give Ringo a lot of credit. I would say, if you still think Ringo is a bad drummer, I would say listen to the...
He had a lot more influence than you'd think.
Yeah, and, like... Listen to the song Ticket to Ride by him, which it's not like the most complicated song in the world, but at the time he incorporated, like he used the toms as part of the drum beat composition, and he did kind of like a quote unquote unfamiliar pattern that was just really creative, I thought, and influenced a lot of drummers.
Is there a way to like describe the pattern?
Yeah, so with a lot of rock songs in general, usually you just kind of play like 8th note and a hi-hat, snare drum on 2 and 4, just kind of going like, boop, da, do, da, do, da. Like, that typical 4/4 drum beat. But on Ticket to Ride, he's kind of playing with the guitars a little bit with the toms. So he's going like, do, da, boo, 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 da, do, do, do.
Oh,
dude!
shit.
And he's kind of switching from tom to tom, going back to and still keeping tom on the snare, and then it just kind of mixes it up and adds that extra. It just adds an extra feel to the song. But yeah, I can go. It's hard.
Keith Moon.
Yeah, Keith Moon's like he was a character. Moon the Loon, I think his nickname was. He was a guy that never played the same thing twice. Like even when you listen to the studio version, there's like I don't mean this in a negative way. There's no structure. Like he just kind of played whatever he felt and
Just
like
roll up to the kit. That works. Lay down the track.
Yeah,
and he's
well,
out.
like, I mean, the Who in general is just like an interesting band of how like every member just kind of did their own thing, and it somehow kind of came together in the end. But yeah, Keith Moon, like crazy dude, like really funny guy. But I think of course, Stuart Copeland from the Police is up there. He's just like has a really good sense of technique, and that's really like when the Police ended and he was asked to do session work for other musicians or songs or whatever. There were some times when they only asked him just to do hi-hat, like not even a full drum set.
They just asked him to do a hi-hat?
Yeah, because like on all the Police songs, he always added all these little extra details that are, when you notice them, you can't unnotice them, you know? And it's
I just had Roxanne start playing in my head, and I heard like the
I mean
drums.
Yeah, and then like on songs on like Message in the Bottle, when it's like that chorus when Sting is singing that message in the bottle. Sorry for my singing voice. And he like Stuart Copeland is just doing all these crazy like little details on the hi-hat where he could have easily just kept like a basic backbeat, but it adds another flavor to the song, and like that, and I think that's what's really cool. Like he's just so good with the hi-hat that he's just able to, that people just ask him to do parts for that. And yeah, he's definitely one of my influences. Again, from my parents, they're big Police fans, and
I never got too much into them. I heard like those 3 Police songs, Every Breath, Message in a Bottle, and Roxanne. Other than that, I'm just like,
yeah, I think,
all right, they're the Police.
Yeah, I think, God, of course, now I can't remember the album name, but
Synchronicity.
Yeah, Synchronicity. Those are the last 1 and 2. Both of those are really good albums. Yeah, I think that was their last album, I believe. But I think that's like a good starting point, even though it's kind of near the end of their career. But they had a really experimental. They really experimented a lot, because like I remember their first album was more of like a punk rock band and very reggae influenced. That's where Roxanne came from, or I think, yeah. And then they had So Lonely, but I think my favorite song by them was Don't Stand So Close to Me. I really like the feel.
That's a relevant song title.
Yeah, really. And like, what better way to hear it now in these pandemic times? But yeah, Stuart Copeland and just does all these like little details on every song. That's just really, it's really something to be amazed at. And when you hear interviews with him of how he just talks about like his thought process of the backbeat, or sometimes it even made the other members mad, where they would just be like, Stuart, why don't you just play like a basic 2/4 beat? And he's just like, well, I don't want to do that. He's just like, that's just not my playing. He goes like, all you need is just, if you give him 8th notes on a hi-hat, that's all the band needs, and then you can add 8 offbeats on like the toms or off. You just gotta find your own fill, And
yeah.
But and then I know we're kind of jumping around here, but like,
I'll go for it. The less I have to talk, the better.
Yeah, so Stuart Copeland, Ringo. We talked a little bit about Keith Moon, but I mean, might as well just talk about, I think, my favorite drummer, and I think a lot of people's favorite drummer is John Bonham, from Led Zeppelin.
His sense of rhythm and his timing was insane. I've never heard anything like it.
Yeah, he can't be duplicated. I think. How many bands can you name where they quit when the drummer dies? That's
yeah.
I mean, even the Who went on when Keith Moon died, and say what you will about their later albums, but they still went on. And
later albums weren't that bad. I think people were just idealizing the Who in the 60s and 70s, and like you can't stack that up against the 60s and 70s material.
Yeah, and I didn't think Kenny Jones was a bad replacement, and now they actually now their touring drummer is Zach Starkley, who's Ringo Starr's son.
He's Ringo's kid?
Yeah, the Who's current drummer is Ringo Starr's kid, Zach.
One of the British invasion bands.
Yeah.
Man, I had something really good. I was going. Oh, what did you think of Was it Celebration Day? How do you think Jason Bonham? How do you think like he did with that whole live show?
I think he did. So remind
That's
me,
what it was called.
was that just like
that was
his
in
group?
like 2007 when Zeppelin played like a show,
Oh, that's
and they
right.
had his kid on drums.
That's right. I do remember that. I thought he did. I didn't watch the whole show, but I've seen like clips of it, and I think he does a really good job. I mean, of course, you can nitpick, but it's just like I think John Bonham's son is as close as you're gonna get, you know. And
Yeah.
I think he did a really good job of just carry on his father legacy. I don't know if it was the same show, but I remember he did like a Moby Dick cover, and like it was kind of cool. They had him playing the solo, and then they had his dad's video of him playing the solo in the background too. And then there was this one part where he kind of stopped playing, and then Jason turns around and just starts watching his dad like rock out. I thought that was really cool. So I think he did a good job, and I mean he did a good enough job that there were rumors that they were going to tour after that, and
then Page and Plant decided to be Page and Plant
Yeah.
and wouldn't do it.
well, from what I understand, it sounded like Jones and Page were into it, and I think Jason was into it too. I think Plant is the hardest. It sounds like and Robert Plant's the hardest to convince to do
Anything.
Zeppelins. Yeah, yeah, anything. He's very particular. I think. I mean, and like in his defense, it sounds like I'm not 20-something or 30-something anymore.
No, that
So-
makes sense. If
yeah.
you're like 70-something and you got to hit those notes that you were hitting, 40, 50 years ago. it's
Yeah,
like,
and like obviously he's older, and like I think also just that I think it's to him he might feel uncomfortable singing about like sex, love, maybe when you're like in your
70s, yeah, you're.
Because I mean, at least to me, I think there's an awkward middle phase where it's like,
This isn't relevant to my life anymore.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's like I guess to me, it's just like when you're in your 20s and you're singing about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's kind of like because you're young and that's what everyone and your fans are young.
That's what you do in your 20s.
Yeah,
You
and
fuck
then-
around
And then you get to like Rolling Stones, where it's kind of funny because it's just like they're in their late 70s and 80s just talking about that stuff. So it's like, oh, haha, they're still young at heart. It's kind of funny. But then
the Stones now, it's like, please, everybody except for Keith Richards, get off the stage, please.
yeah, but yeah, it's like, but then I think of like bands like Blink-182 or like Green Day, where it's like they're in their like 40s and 50s and they're still talking. To me, I feel like they're in their growing pains of like they're not young anymore, where but they're not super old either. So it's just, I guess at this point, it's like a stage persona. Who knows?
Yeah.
They probably act, or hopefully they act more mature, like off stage. But it's just like attention. Like I saw Smashing Pumpkins a couple years ago, and Billy Corgan, like he was really good. Don't get me wrong; it was a very fun concert, and I enjoyed it. But like,
Right.
all the members are wearing like very casual clothes, and then he's wearing like a skeleton costume on the first couple songs. And granted, I saw him around Halloween, so then I
Right.
thought, okay, maybe it's just a Halloween thing. And then he does a costume change, and he's wearing like a completely white suit and a top hat, and then he's like on the piano, and then I'm like, okay, I guess this is his solo stuff now. And then he changes again, and then he ends the show with, like, me and my dad still laugh about it. He comes out, and I cannot describe what he's wearing. He's wearing like he's like a monk or something. He's wearing like a robe, like as if he's from the Monty Python like group, and then he's got this like giant metal pyramid thing on his head, which I have no idea what the hell it was, and I think the audience didn't know either because everyone just either laughed or was just kind of like, what's he wearing? And like I have no idea what that was supposed to
This
symbolize.
isn't an Alice Cooper show.
Yeah, it
And
was
Alice
like,
Cooper can get away with it. That's like his whole thing.
and like Pumpkins are like a 90s like kind of, I mean, they're like a mix of everything. They have some grunge, they have some psychedelic, but they were never really, at least I never pegged them for like really big stage costume performances. So it just seems very
No,
weird.
they always seem more like, we're wearing what we're wearing and let's go out and play,
Yeah, it was like, So it was just kind of like, I don't know what that was all about, but it was still a good show. So I
You have
guess
that, and then I think you had, was it Blink that went out on stage like completely naked one time?
oh
Or was
yeah,
that
because
was them, right?
for that music video, right? They did the what
I
song?
don't I don't know if it was for a video or if it was just like a show that they were playing, but they went out just completely
Yeah.
naked.
It was for What's My Age Again, right? Probably.
I think.
That was the music video. They streaked naked, right?
I don't know. Let's
I
find
think it
out.
was. Yeah, I.
Whilst I'm looking that up, let's just stay on Blink. What about Travis Barker?
Travis is a really good drummer. He's never been a huge influence of me. I've really respected him. He's definitely really fast, and like I really,
All right, yeah, looks like that is the
yeah, the naked video. God, I swear every time I see him, he has more and more tattoos. Yeah, I respect Travis. I don't follow like everything he does, but I think he's really consistent. This may be a hot take. I think he's always kind of what stuck that band together. In my opinion,
I think so. I mean, you had Tom leave. What?
he left a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he left. Yeah, you had Tom leave, and like they still managed to. I think they've been putting out new material too. So yeah, Tom left, and that wasn't that big of a deal. But I feel like if Travis were to leave the band, it's like, yep, we're done.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's really fast, and I think I can really tell he must have had some marching influence because I notice a lot of the stuff he likes to do is like when there's like a big build up or a bridge, he'll play on the like ride cymbal really fast, and then he'll like play some militant like like a militant like militant like that you normally play on like a snare drum, but he switches it around to like other instruments, which is really interesting, and like he's really good. I tell you what, he's really good at going from different time signatures. Like on like I think I always think of the song Dumpweed when he goes from like halftime to full time to like cut time in like 2 measures basically. Like I think that's really impressive of what he does. I like Blink-182. They're kind of hit or miss for me sometimes. Like Tom's voice kind of gets on my nerves after a little while.
Well, it's the same on every song.
Yeah, I think all their songs kind of mush together after a little while.
I'm the same way with AC/DC. Occasionally, and I can't remember the last time I even did this, but occasionally I will just throw on an AC/DC playlist, and after about 25 minutes, I'm like, I gotta listen to something else. Sorry.
That's fair. Like, this makes me sound like a hypocrite, but like, yeah, it totally makes you sound like a hypocrite because I just made fun of Blink-182. But like, I mean, AC/DC, a lot of their songs sound the same, but at the same time,
they're not.
They're so good. It's like
they sound the same, but they're not the same.
Yeah, I mean, I just listened to their newest album that came out like November of 2020, so like peak.
That was actually all right.
It was really good. They had like the original members left. It was kind of like a tribute to Malcolm, who rest in peace, like passed away from dementia, unfortunately. But they're still rocking it. Like I honestly. They're of course they're not the most technical band, or they're not the most serious band, but they just have this undeniably likable charm that I feel like whether you're a fan of them or not, or if you're into rock music or not, if their song comes on, like you just can't help but smile. Just
even if it's in this tongue in cheek, just like, oh great, this song. Like every time, like Back in Black or like Thunderstruck or something. I'm like, oh great, this song.
Yeah, I mean they get you hyped.
And I can bet if you go to an AC/DC show, you're not going to be rolling your eyes and this song. No, you're going to be like jamming, dude.
Yeah, and
they're a live band.
They are.
I think the album. They're a live band. The albums are just an excuse and like a means to like. We have to have something to tour so people will come to the show, so here's the albums. But no, come to the show.
Yeah, I definitely would want to see them live. But yeah, I was at a wedding not too long ago, and if weddings, I mean, obviously there's exceptions everywhere, but like depending on where you're at, they either play like pop songs or country songs or some soul songs for slow
This
dances.
podcast does not condone country music.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just the way it is, and like I get it because it's like what most people, it's like easy, quote unquote, easy dance music. But then, I mean, even nowadays they don't play a lot of rock music, but they always play like one or two AC/DC songs, and people get hyped for it because even if rock's not your thing, it's just an easy song to lay back to and jam to.
It's good energy, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's good energy.
It's
man.
good energy. Yeah,
good
but
vibes.
No, yeah, AC/DC just they're just fun. There's just no
They're fun. They know their audience too.
I
if
think
we're talking from
yeah.
like an industry standpoint, and you can say they all all their stuff sounds the same, but they know their audience. They know what they're doing.
Yeah,
Like
I think I mean, it's kind of funny how like people criticize them for they just do the same thing, but then like how many bands have tried something different and people criticize them being like this doesn't sound the same at all, and then I just think of that one of my favorite comedians, Bill Burr. He said like,
oh, I love Bill Burr.
Yeah,
you ever sidebar on Bill Burr? You ever see Office for Family?
oh, I love that show.
Dude.
I will say not for everyone though. I showed
no, if you don't like naughty language, don't watch the show.
Yeah, it's an animated show, and like I remember I showed one episode to my dad, and he kind of was just like, kind of funny, but not for me. And I said that's fair. So, but anyway, I forget, he was like being interviewed somewhere, and he said like, AC/DC, they never veered from the path. They only talk about three things: women, the devil, and their balls. And that's and
he's right.
He's right, and like it's worked out for them, and it's like I think you can't go wrong. I feel like, I mean, they lost a singer, they lost the one of the guitarists, so I feel like at this point they'll probably continue until Angus dies. I feel like if Angus dies,
it's Angus's band.
Yeah, so I feel like maybe Brian Johnson, but because he's been the singer with them for so long too. But then again, they toured without him when he was on hiatus. So
yeah,
I feel like at this point, unless and Angus doesn't seem like he's slowing down. So I feel like I think Angus said once this band's not going to stop unless I hit the grave. And then he said and even then it might still go on. But I feel like the other members probably will stop once he's gone. But honestly, if he's still up for it, I mean, he's only in his 60s, which isn't quote unquote that old.
No, it's not that old.
And God, if the Rolling Stones are still doing it, why can't he? We joked about bands still wearing their costumes, but I think there's just something funny about him still wearing the school band uniform.
It's one of those you kind of have to at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like Slash with the top hat. Okay, he has to.
Mm-hmm.
He has to wear that. Angus has to wear the school uniform.
Yeah, Ringo with sunglasses.
Slipknot has to wear the mask.
Yeah.
Albums. Let's talk about albums. Do you have any that you just front to back you've listened to and you're just blown away?
I mean, of course, I think the very first, going back to Beatles, I think Sgt. Pepper's, that was the first album, at least I can remember, that I actually knew each song and each part, because I think going on road trips with my family growing up, we did a lot of road trips, and back in those days you didn't have iPods or Bluetooth.
So you listen to whatever.
Yeah,
whatever your parents want to listen
so
to.
Yeah. So basically, it was we either had to bring a CD, and our parents are pretty good. They would play some of me and my sister's music, and we all, my family's music tastes are all pretty much on the same page. So
my mom subjected us to the horrors of Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi.
Those were dark times.
Yeah. Your mom and my mom would get along then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember my parents got the Sgt. Pepper CD, and then me and my sister were just I think with that album in particular, even if you never heard of the Beatles, just the variety of that album, it's you can go from Getting Better to A Day in the Life, or of course, now I'm butchering the name, but the George Harrison, kind of Indian influence song. Just the variety of that album is very creative, I think, and I totally.
Which one, Sgt. Pepper's?
Yeah, Sgt. Pepper's. Okay. It's really. And it's just four guys,
Yeah, it's interesting too because I've never don't hate me and don't disown me as your friend, but I have actually never listened to that album with Sgt. Pepper's. But the way you were describing that, it's interesting because I had 2 albums like that. Because the White Album was the same way. It's just we have all of this different material coming from all of these different places, and we're just gonna load the thing up, and here you go. And dude, it just exploded.
Yeah, I think you'll definitely like Sgt. Pepper's. Like, I like the White Album. I think I don't know if it needed to be a double album. That's just my opinion. But there were some songs that I was kind of like, okay, here's 10 minutes of someone saying number 9. You know, like I was just kind of like, okay. But I think Sgt. Pepper's, like, I think there's not a filler song. You know what I mean? There's not a song. Yeah.
This reminds me. Have you ever seen, it's like an Onion article or a meme or something, but it's like unhinged Paul McCartney goes into hour number 9 of Hey Jude sing along.
That's funny. Like, I remember when I saw, have you seen the movie Yesterday?
Is that the one where like the Beatles never existed?
Yeah, it came out.
I heard about it.
Okay, it came out a couple years ago.
You're the second person to have told me to watch it, but
yeah.
I understand the plot.
Yeah, it's a really good movie, and actually Ed Sheeran's in the movie, and you know I never hated Ed Sheeran, but like I was just never very familiar with him except for maybe like The Shape of You, you know, and then like some of his other bigger songs. But he was great in the movie. He actually pokes a lot of fun at himself, and like he's definitely the butt of a lot of jokes. And there's this one part where him and the main character kind of have like a music off, and they say who can write the best song in like 10 minutes. And of course, he does like a Beatles song. I can't remember which Beatles song, but
wait, is he like the main character in it?
Ed Sheeran? No, he's like a supporting character. I feel
like a cameo type thing.
I mean, like, I wouldn't call it a cameo because he's in more than one scene.
Oh,
so,
okay,
like,
word. So he's just kind of in it.
Yeah, he's just kind of in it. Like his character, like this quote unquote discovers him when he starts playing Beatles music, and he kind of tours with them. So he's in it for a little bit, but yeah, and then he does like a Beatles song, and then like Ed Sheeran goes like, "Man, you are so much better than me," and like you know you're like I hope to get at like your level, and then I just think of this one part. Like, what if he just started playing Revolution 9 and see, like, how he would have reacted, you know? But, no, it was a sweet movie. And, yeah, but, like, how they make fun of Ed Sheeran when he's in the recording studio. And then the main character, I can't remember his name, he starts going, like, you know, "Hey, Jude, don't bring me down." And then he goes, like, Ed Sheeran goes, like, "Hey, just an idea. What if we changed it to... Hey, dude."
Hey, dude.
And then he was just like, "No, it's got to be Hey Jude." And then his friend was just like, "Do you know anyone named Jude?" And then he goes like, "Well, no, but like,
but that's not the point."
Yeah, yeah. It was an interesting movie. It's,
What do you? Let me ask you something. You ever This is literally not even related to the Beatles.
No, you're fine.
I was talking to this dude in Detroit for another episode, and dude, we got to talking about The Wall, and this guy was just like, because you know he's like in his 40s, but he discovered it in like the early 90s, late 80s, and he was just like, "Well, I didn't know you could do that." The way they set that up, like I don't know, you listen to a lot of Floyd or?
I listened to The Dark Side of the Moon. Which is, of course,
I've never heard that album actually.
Oh, it's really good. That's where
I've heard Money.
Yeah,
I've
Money.
heard that song, but that's only because I was stuck in a gas station that played the
Money.
classic rock radio. But
yeah, that's of course. Time is like 10 years pass you by. My dad. I listen to a lot of Pink Floyd from my dad. My dad's big Pink Floyd, big progressive rock fan in general. Yeah. I don't know much of The Wall. I've listened to it once. Of course I remember the Education song. We don't need
I think that was that was like the title track.
Yeah, I remember that song. Brick by Brick.
Comfortably Numb was actually.
Yeah,
that's like the song. Now let's jump around for a minute. So we talked about some of the older bands growing up. Because you're like a 2000s kid, like I was.
Yeah,
what
pretty much.
what were some of these like newer, kind of more modern bands that drew you in?
Um, I mean, this may seem kind of funny now, but like I remember when All American Rejects came on, I really got into the song. God, I got into Dirty Little Secret, which
I discovered that through, I think it was like Madden 07.
Yeah,
is when
it's
I
like,
found that song.
I really got into that song because that was when I first learned how to play a drum set, and that's kind of like an easy song to start on drum set. And they did Move Along, which kind of has that kind of famous drum intro, which isn't that hard, but it's still really fun, especially when you're first learning how to play drums. So I would say them. I think Paramore was another big influence on me, which looking back, I kind of wish I listened to them more because my sister was very much into them because, like, it was kind of that whole. I think they kind of get unfairly compared to as, oh, she's just kind of like a female fronted rock band, but they have really good guitar riffs, and the drummer. I didn't appreciate it at the time, but the drummer had some really creative drum parts, specifically on the first two albums, that especially when I feel like when I got to high school, that's when I really started playing more Paramore, because that's when like he didn't do your typical drum beats, and like any time when a drummer can think of a part that's not just keeping time, like then I'm like hooked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you can have these creative fills, and we're gonna hit the ride in this weird offbeat. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
like that.
It's just
I'm not a drummer. I don't know.
No,
I just program the fucking things.
like one of my favorite songs by Paramore is "Conspiracy," and the verses on that song. It's interesting because he's basically following the rhythm guitar. So he's kind of doing like a 16th note pattern, stopping and then playing offbeats. So it's going the whole, like, I think it's a 2-measure beat where he's just going da 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 da. So it's obviously easier once you hear the song, but
yeah,
it works for the song because I think that's what I like most about drums. It's like, you don't just have to be a metronome. I mean, obviously that's kind of your job. You have to be the metronome to keep everyone in time, but you
can still be creative.
Yeah, you could still be creative. You can feel. So I remember when I think with not just drums, but with any instrument or like with anything you're doing, everyone feels intimidated that like when you see someone who's like amazing, thinking, God, how am I going to get to that level? Like, and obviously you can always push yourself to be better, and you should always push yourself to try new things. But I forget when I realized this. I think like probably in high school, or like maybe not even high school, maybe in college, when I was just like, okay, I probably won't be the fastest drummer. I probably won't be the, most
technically adept.
Yeah, that drummer, but like or probably won't be the most creative drummer. But I feel like if I could just be like different enough to stand out, like I guess that's what I do when I try to play drums. If I make music for people, I just try like, okay, what can I do that's like different or
no, that's a good approach to take though.
Or like, it also depends on like the music you're making or what the song is. Like the song's the most important. So like I never try to show off. I just try to, okay, what works for the song? What can I do bare minimum to make it work? And then what can I do to make it my own spin on it? I think that's why drummers like John Bonham and Keith Moon and like, just those guys, they stand out because they did things that, in Ringo Starr, they just did things that will make them be remembered.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm working around like the acoustic kind of genre, so not much drums, but one of these songs I got uses cowboy chords, as they call it. So it's literally just the basic chord shapes, right? It's literally just an F chord, an A minor, and a C chord, but the way this is just in regards to like your approach and like what can I do to be creative with this. The chord shapes aren't that hard and they're not that complicated at all, but it's like the way that I decided to like, all right, I'm going to like finger pick this and the rhythm and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, now it sounds interesting. Then if I just, strum the things out, like.
Yeah, I think because there are some bands where like Led Zeppelin, where every member stands out. Like, you know,
Yeah.
bass players talk about Jones, guitarists talk about Page, drummers talk about Bonham, singers talk about Plant. And then, like, but then there are some bands, like, I mean, just because we talked about them earlier, I think of Guns N' Roses, where, I mean, granted, I'm not the biggest fan, but I think of Guns N' Roses.
No, you either love them or hate them.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think of them for guitars. Like, I think
yeah.
they're a guitar. I call them like kind of like a guitar band. Like, and like no shade to like any of the drummers or bass players, which I'm sure they've had many over the years from the sounds of it. But I feel like the drummer fit the song, which is
Oddly
great.
enough, they've only had 2 bass players.
Really?
They had Duff, who Duff was in the band, yeah, from like 80, basically the inception of the band up to 97. Duff was in the band, and then he came back in 2016. They only had one guy filling on bass, but no drummers. They've had drummers and guitar players, and the only thing they haven't gone through is singers. So
Yeah, I wonder why.
surprise, yeah. He's definitely not the problem.
Yeah.
Anyways, you were saying.
Yeah, but like bands like that, like where, or like even like All American Rejects, where it's like there are people probably remember the singer more than like the other members of the band, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, but
Well, nobody like Journey. Steve Perry, I don't like Journey. They're not my bag. I'm not nothing against them. They're just not my thing.
yeah,
But like, I don't know any other member of Journey aside from Steve Perry
yeah, and
or the Police. Like Sting. That's all I
Yeah.
know. Like, and I know we were just talking about
I
their
know.
drummer, but I
That's,
forgot his name.
Stuart Copeland, and
There
then,
we go.
Guitarist is Andy Summers, who I personally think he never got enough credit. Just because he did a lot of kind of psychedelic stuff. I think he thought of like really cool ways to like fill in. They're kind of like, for a 3-piece, like it wasn't very guitar driven, surprisingly. Like it was definitely because like, you know, Sting's a great bass player, Copeland's a great drummer. Like
Yeah.
he kind of, a lot of the songs he actually kind of takes like a back seat towards, which is interesting. But
They're more like rhythmic, groovy, kind of more low end.
yeah,
From what I've heard.
I think, yeah, definitely give the Police a chance. Like, I think, like, it's funny, like, even though Every Breath You Take is probably, like, their biggest song, it's probably one of my least favorite songs by them, because I feel like it's just, I mean, obviously it got overplayed, but I think it doesn't show their best chops on either instrument. Like,
No.
I think...
And the lyrics are kind of creepy, too.
yeah, I think do da da da. I'm not. That's not gibberish. That's actually the name of the song. It's actually really shows off their talents as Andy Summers as a guitar player. I think that song really shows them. Like I feel like that's with a lot of bands too. Like sometimes you hear like their hits, and then you kind of people write them off of just like, oh, I'm sure if their other songs sound like this, I don't want to listen to this, but. I feel like now people don't really listen to albums anymore, and like they kind of miss out on the quote unquote like deep cuts that sometimes I feel like are their best songs. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you're saying. And again, this dude in Detroit, because I talked about a lot of stuff with this guy, so I'm gonna bring him up a few times. But he and I were talking about vinyls versus like streaming, and like I have all those vinyls out there in my living room, but like I don't listen to them a ton. To be quite honest, like I don't know. It's we got into like a conversation about that and like attention span, and this guy brought up that, and he didn't want to be one of those people that was like, oh, kids these days, but he's talking about like some of the younger generation, they just don't get it. They'll listen to the hit from the album, and they might listen to a couple other songs, but they'll decide like a minute and a half, 2 minutes in, no, this isn't good. And they'll just skip and like, no, you have to sit and make it an event if you're going to listen to an album, to be honest.
Yeah, it's...
And some albums are just bad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna deny that. Some of them are just... Like, I listened to a Judas Priest album. I don't remember which one it was, but I was like cleaning as I was listening to it, and about half an hour in, I was like, man, this kind of sucks.
Yeah. I always tell this story. Like, I remember when my dad, I think when I was in college, there was that big song, "All Right Now" by Free,
Yeah.
and like very famous guitar riffs. And I remember my dad was telling me the story that he heard that song somewhere and like how much he loved it. And like back then vinyl was your only choice. So and like I'm sure it could have been a single, but like he just decided, oh, I'll get the full album. Like it's not that expensive. So he bought the full album, and I think that was the first song. He loved that song. He listened to the rest of the album and hated every single song off that album. And then my dad returned it, lied, said it was like it had a scratch on it just so he can get a refund.
Takes his key and just
Yeah, it was. But I just always think, but it's like true because, I mean, I can understand back then because it was kind of a gamble where buying an album that if you just want to listen to one song, it's just like seems like a waste. But I feel like now people have no excuse with Spotify where it's just like you can
pay $10 a month and get millions and millions.
Well,
and
shit.
Like
I mean,
all the music in the world.
Yeah, and like you don't even need to pay it. You can listen to free.
Yeah,
it's just
hell, just go on YouTube and they got album playlists, full albums. Like,
yeah. So it's just like I feel like part of it people just aren't aware because I feel like people see the music video and then they think like that's just they just release songs now. They don't release
nobody.
albums.
It's going in that direction though. Nobody puts out, and unless you're like unless you had your come up in the 2000s, and I'm talking like current like people like pop stars. Unless you had your come up in the 2000s, or unless you're maybe not at the top anymore, but like some of these top artists, you don't do albums. It's the single, and you tour the single. And
you play old
you
songs.
New single, and you got maybe an EP, but you don't. There's not, at least not that I'm seeing, that there's full records and like a whole thing around the album. No, it's this. It's the single. It's the product. I mean, not to sound like a hippie, but it's the product.
Yeah, I mean, every band's different too, of course, but it's just. I think part of the reason it's 'cause it's just so expensive now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so expensive to make an album, and the sad truth is no one's really buying it anymore. And like even on streaming, it sounds like that's a whole other story. But like I'm not in that whole sphere. But it sounds like artists are not getting paid nearly as much as you would think.
And like, I'm a very bad example of this, but like I did the math. I have a little over 200 streams cumulatively from all the material I've released.
Mm-hmm.
I got 55 cents.
Yeah.
They give you like 1/8 of a cent per stream. I did the math. I counted this and like researched it and all that. And yeah, it's like Spotify gives you like 1/8 of a cent, and like YouTube's payout is even lower, or it might be a little higher. But like, dude, when you have Steven Tyler going in front of Congress and saying, like, "Hey, sign this bill so that artists can get paid," like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like weird now how it's kind of flipped, how bands used to make all their money from albums and now it's the opposite.
It's touring.
Yeah, touring and merch. Those are the two big ones now. I mean, who is it? Chance the Rapper? Like I think he just releases music for free. Like I think
he does.
Yeah, and then like I guess he just, and I'm sure he has like a big brand deal and stuff. Yeah, I feel like
when you get to that level, you got all kinds of deals up there.
Isn't it kind of funny now how like back in like 90s, 80s, like or like probably even like different time periods, like people would accuse artists of like selling out, like when they did commercials or stuff like that.
Metallica sold out with the Black Album.
Yeah, it's just
and it's like no, they didn't. They just hit their creative peak.
Yeah, it's like I feel like if people knew how to sell out, there would be more of it. Like, you know what I mean? I think,
dude, when somebody's selling out. Like, we'll use Metallica as if Metallica really sold out with the Black Album, they would have been doing the grunge stuff in the 90s.
Yeah, I feel like
they would have been and like I know that Nevermind hadn't blown up by that point, but you could hear around like Soundgarden was kind of getting some steam going, and Nirvana was kind of getting some steam going. If they wanted to sell out, and that's what was selling at the time, they would have. Like, Yeah, it's blatantly obvious when somebody's selling out.
Yeah, I guess I always consider selling out as like uh I guess selling out as if like they completely
Do they just
do like a 180 of something. Maybe they support something they completely were against before, or like
yeah, like the there's no specific example I can think of, but some huge band that's always like, down with corporate people and down with down with the fat cats, and then they sign a brand deal like for a Walmart commercial or some shit. And I'm like, dude, come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was a terrible example.
No, I get what you're saying. It's like that's how I kind of have mixed feelings about Rage Against the Machine in that way.
That's interesting. Why is that?
Because it's like, they're very anti, capitalist and anti this and that, but they obviously are thriving in a capitalist, way,
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like, it's weird.
Yeah, they're very, very, very liberal and like capitalism bad, and but we're gonna make a couple mil off this show in front of 20,000 people at Madison Square Garden, and like, all right,
and
you do you.
I like their music. I think they're really good, and like, their reunion tour. From what I've heard, their tickets are very expensive. Yeah. So it's like,
and I'm gonna catch shit for this, but Kurt Cobain, he had that whole approach, like, I don't want to be a cog in the corporate machine, and but like, you know who Ghost, the band Ghost?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, their singer was talking about that, and he was like, dude, it was kind of an act, because he said Nirvana didn't get famous on accident. He said nobody gets famous on accident. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't happen. No, he said they tried, and they put in the work, and they wanted to get famous. They wanted to be successful. Mm-hmm. It's not something where, they just got discovered in a garage, because that's what everybody seems to think. But mm-hmm. like, no, they tried.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they did not expect to become that famous or that big.
Well, no, but like, just any amount of success, you don't accidentally like.
Yeah, and like,
oops, I'm famous.
Yeah, I feel like when like those guys like, Rage and Kurt, Nirvana, when they say like, we're not
corporate America.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of take that as like they're quirky. You know what I mean? It's just like they're kind of different,
Kind of. Yeah, I get what you're saying. The only one where I'll excuse it, and it's just because of my left-leaning political views, is when Green Day did American Idiot, and they were already massively successful, but it's like, I saw that more as, hey, we have a platform and like a huge audience, and we're just going to use this to call out all the bullshit that's going on right now. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I mean, I kind of hate seeing bands do this thing. It's like, dude, you got millions of dollars. You're living in your mansion.
Yeah.
You didn't like, just, you kind of lost the ability. And if it's truly like, all right, I'm going to use my platform to bring awareness to this issue, no, that's wonderful. That's great. Do that. But like, if you're gonna like down with corporate America, but you're like being benefited by it, like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
In order to get successful, you have to like work with the man. It's like you gotta compromise a little bit, like, and if you don't, like, more power to you. But it's just like, unless you don't mind, probably not. I mean, I can't think of really anyone who truly is like been like independent, like, it's just
at any amount of success. I don't know. I think it's more, I've been having more fun doing the independent thing, like the electronic stuff. I was like pushing and I was hustling like labels and stuff, and I burned myself out, and dude, I'm just like recording what I want to record and writing what I want to write, and that's like the most fun I've had with it this far. I think when artists get to a certain point too, back like to the selling out thing, they're not selling out. I think they're just like, I'm pretty sure, just to use the Black Album as an example again, I think Metallica just got tired of writing the same. They got tired of the thrash scene and just like, you know what? No, we're gonna branch out here, and this helps us deal with all the bullshit of being this famous, and we at least have freedom here. So this is what we're gonna do, and yeah,
and then, like, it's funny because like every time when people accuse bands of selling out, it's like it's always like the big bands. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like they have enough money that they don't need this.
They don't need to sell out.
They don't need to sell out. It's like
the only thing they're selling out is shows.
Like it's like,
and it's funny too. They're laughing all the way to the band. Like they don't give a shit if some. Oh, you sold out. And
yeah, I mean,
only like if you're a smaller band, yeah, you might care a little bit, but you're that big, you're just like, yeah, I don't care. I have $20 million.
It kind of reminds me when
have fun at work on Monday.
Yeah. It reminds me when like Linkin Park did their like last album, and then like
which one was that? Was that like one more?
One was it Last Light or One More Light?
Yeah, it was like One More Light. I think something like the cover was them and they were on like a beach or something.
Yeah,
right? Was that
like,
it? Yeah.
I remember when that came out, like a lot of fans were like trashing it, saying like, "Oh, it was shit. Like they sold out. It's like not like their other stuff." And then like the band like said like, "Oh, like we were just trying something different." And then when Chester died, like then everyone starts raving about it. So like, I can't believe like how great this album was. Like I loved it the whole time. And I'm like, bullshit. Like you accused them of like selling out. It's just like I only feel bad because he died. It's just like
dude, that's another thing that I can't. I really hate it when everybody acts like, oh, we love them. It's like, no, you're just like hopping on the karma train. Well, not everybody's a Reddit user. It's an exclusive club. I'm on Reddit. I'm different.
I too wear a fedora.
Milady.
Oh,
dude, there's so many jokes I'm just holding back right now.
Oh, God.
This isn't the Nice Guys podcast.
I know. I'm just looking at your face. You're just like...
You can tell I'm like restraining myself right now. What were we even talking? Oh, right, yeah. I don't like yeah, when Chester died, you had all of these people coming out, and you know what? Again, dude, if you were truly a fan, and like I think I said something, I went on Facebook and posted something about Chester, shared something, and rest in peace. Like I didn't grow up listening to Linkin Park, but I was aware of them and the impact they had, and mine was more out of like, hey, it wasn't my bag at the time, and it still kind of isn't, but like, hey, I respect what you did. But then you get these people, it's just trendy to like, this person died, and I'm going to act sad about it. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
They try to make it about them,
Like, imagine if Hendrix died in this day and age, and you get all these like Zoomer.
Yeah,
like,
it's like...
the best ever. I'm like, dude, you haven't listened to any. You listened all along the Watchtower. Like, shut up. But, oh, crap, I was just gatekeeping. Oops.
No, I mean, like, and it's like, but then it's also the other way. Like, let's say when someone famous dies, like, let's say, like, I'm sure there were some people when Eddie Van Halen died, people were probably like, who's that? Probably some people. And then there were probably some people shaming them, being like, how do you not know who this is? Like, and it's just like, not everyone knows everything, It's
dude,
just
like, yeah, it's not like people just, and Van Halen hasn't done anything. Like, I think they did a different kind of truth, but I don't think after 2012 they didn't really do much. I know was it 2014? I don't know, something. They were on the Late Show and David Lee Roth broke his nose. Other than that, like that.
Well,
unless you're like a guitar player or a huge like music kind of person in the rock genre, you're not gonna know who like I'm not gonna shit on some 22-year-old white girl for not knowing who Eddie Van Halen was,
Yeah,
like I'm not gonna be that person.
That's what happened to Billie Eilish, I think.
Wait, what?
I think
she didn't know who it was.
Well, I think she was on. God, was it Jimmy Kimmel? I can't remember. She was on some like one of those like Tonight type shows,
right?
And I think like they were just asking her about what music she liked, and then like she said she wasn't very familiar with rock music, and then he said, "You know who Van Halen is?" And she goes like, "No," and then like
It's like, dude, she's like
she
18
got
or 19.
yeah, she got shit on
give her a
like
break.
like social media, and then like I think what's Eddie's son's name?
Wolfgang.
Like he posted something like, yo, not everyone knows my band. Like, not everyone knows Billie Eilish. Like, we all just say we like music and just like,
Yeah, let's just all chill, you know.
and like, you know, who hasn't been like, hey, have you heard of this band? And then you go, no, and they go like, well, you probably heard this song, and then they play the song, and then you go like, oh, that's what the band was. Like, you know, I have a million songs like that. Like,
after Tom Petty died, and like I wasn't too big a fan of him,
mm-hmm.
and not nothing against his music. There's certain bands and artists I just never got around to listening to these bands and artists. Like I have a huge list. Whenever somebody listen to them, I'm like, yep, add it to the list. And like when I have a minute, you know, when I'm not doing this or music stuff or any of my other adult responsibilities, if I have time, all right, I'll hang out and listen to it. But I completely forgot where I was going with this. Oh, right, when Tom Petty died, in 2017, I went into a Spotify and I went through like, you know, I got like the top 5, the most played. I went through those and I was like, I didn't know he wrote that. I didn't know he wrote like all of those. I was like, he wrote that song? Like shit.
Yeah, and like, I feel like when someone dies, I feel like it's kind of like the best time to look back on like the artist that you're not familiar with, because like, it's like
you want them to be remembered.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I feel like, you know, you could say people are jumping on the bandwagon, but like, you know, when people die, everyone does like the deep bios about them, and people probably release videos, and then it's like, I feel like that's probably the best time to learn as much new information.
I do think it was kind of funny how, like Eddie Van Halen's death obviously was not funny.
Yeah,
but it
Austin, no, cancer isn't a joke, Austin.
It's not a joke.
Millions of families suffer every year.
Oh, that's funny. Michael! Oh, shit, I got to throw a compressor on that one. The audio waveform just shot up.
We're just doing random office references.
Yeah, it says this is the new format of the show. He slipped on a banana peel. No, just kidding. I probably, I'm going to have to edit that out.
Yeah, we do it in post, you know.
Oh, right. Yeah. After he died, I think 1984 literally just shot to the top of like iTunes. Mm-hmm. It was like the #1 sold album for a couple weeks, and that was amusing to me. I didn't even like that album then. Like Jump is one of those songs. If I never heard it, I'd die a happy man if I never heard that again.
It gets overplayed.
Right along with Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't want to hear that song ever again.
I mean, yeah, they get overplayed, but they're good songs, you know. So it's just.
Or like Queen when that movie came out, which I was like gatekeepy at the time with it. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, your guys aren't like really that famous. It's just trendy and it's a new movie and that. But it was actually cool because you actually got a new generation of fans out of that. So that was pretty cool.
I liked it. I didn't love it. Like,
what didn't you like about it?
Well,
because I've heard some people are just like, oh, I don't like Queen, so I didn't like the movie, or like, oh, they are overplayed. Like one of my buddies is like, because they did a movie podcast in like 2018, and you know they talked about Bohemian Rhapsody shortly after it came out, and my buddy was just like, you know what, I'm just not. My parents listened to Queen, but like I think they're overplayed, so I didn't like the movie. But what?
No, I like Queen. I think they're all good musicians all around, and of course.
You don't need to say anything about Freddie because we all know Freddie's.
Yeah, and then like I can't remember the actor's name. Rami Malek, is that his name?
Yeah, that's him.
He did an incredible performance. I think all the performances in that movie were really great. I think so. This might not be a fair criticism because it's like you can't really say what could have been, but like supposedly they're going to do an R-rated version of that movie.
I thought it was R-rated.
No, I think it was just PG-13.
Oh shit!
And they were going to do an R-rated version with Sacha Baron Cohen, you know, Borat, as Freddie Mercury.
Very nice.
And I guess there were some stories of how, I mean, they kind of showed it in the movie, but not the full extent of how like Freddie Mercury would just have like really crazy parties, and like they did show it in the movie, but I mean like supposedly he had like little people walking around with like plates on their heads with cocaine on it. Like, you know,
that's pretty messed up.
yeah, it's just like really, and like I think another thing that kind of bothered me a little bit was when there were like some moments where, you know, Freddy's dead. The other members are still alive. You know, you need the members' permission to make the movie.
Right.
And there are just some moments in the movie where it's just like Freddy is going up to them, like, "Hey guys, like, come hang out with me," and they're just like, "Oh no, we can't, Freddy. We have families now." And then I'm just kind of thinking, you know, did that really happen?
Didn't
you know,
really happen.
I mean,
and
they were with them. They partied. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I think they kind of smoothed over that because I think. I mean, I could be dead wrong. I don't want to make accusations, but like I just feel like the other members are still alive. They probably don't want to hurt their image, so it probably does make
smoothed it over and just
Yeah.
we're gonna make him look like the asshole.
Yeah, I mean, like, and like, don't get me wrong. I'm sure Freddie Mercury was the biggest partier of the four of them, but like,
I can't imagine. Yeah, astrophysicist Brian May. I can't imagine. Well, yeah, he probably partied back in the day.
Yeah, when they were all young at one point, they were all in that scene, and like I think the bass player, John Deacon, I think he had like a drinking problem that they didn't really show in the movie. I think like at the end of some shows, like he actually had like a private bar or something that like he would just like start drinking right after shows. Like it was crazy. So like I still like the movie. I think it's a good movie. It's really enjoyable, and I think it does Queen justice. I just feel like they definitely kind of made it a little clean to get that you know PG-13
I agree with you on like the time. They jumped around with the time frame because there were certain.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, and I understand it's a movie, and this is just a really stupid thing to bother me. But like, you know, they're showing something from like the mid '70s, but it was a Queen song that came out in the '80s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, if you're gonna use the time period, line it up with the release order. Like, I don't.
And this might interest us more because we're more music people. But remember in like the first, when it was like near the beginning of the movie, where like they're recording their first album in a day. And they start doing like all these like crazy stuff. Like they put like quarters on like the drums and like they do like all these like weird techniques to get weird sounds. And they kind of montage through that. And I'm just thinking I could have watched like an hour of this. Like, you know, that was
Dude,
like
I could have watched. You could have had like an actual tape from the actual studio from like the 70s.
So,
I'll watch that production. There's some good tricks in there.
Maybe we need to watch like Queen documentaries because that might interest us more. But like I just remember I feel like. Okay, I get they want to get the plot going to like the like big hits, like, you know, "We Will Rock You," but it's just like just the way they montage through that. It's just like, man, they actually recorded the whole album in a whole day, and like
I wouldn't put it past them. It's been done, but yeah, they just like skipped over it. Speaking of biopics, the Elton John one, I loved that one.
That one was fantastic.
I saw that in the theaters, and I was just like, shit. And then it went on Netflix like 2 months later, and I watched it again, and I was still like, shit.
You know, I like Queen music more than Elton John, and I think I like the Elton John
Get out of my house
movie. Okay, let's be honest though. Elton John in like the 90s got a little ridiculous.
No, he got kind of ridiculous. Yeah. Elton John in the 80s was like, I prefer his 70s stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. But yeah, I was just really impressed. I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in the Kingsman movies. Who played Taron Egerton? Is that his name?
Taron Egerton. Yeah,
he played Elton John. Like he was actually singing.
Yeah, they had a whole album.
That's insane to me. Like
he was really close.
He was.
Have you heard that version of your song? Which, and I think I knew this before the movie, but if not, I learned it from the movie. Is Elton didn't write any of his own lyrics?
Yeah, the other guy.
Yeah,
right?
Bernie Taupin. And Elton got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he was like, Bernie should be getting this award because he wrote the words. Like, I didn't do anything. This guy wrote the lyrics. So here you go. This is yours, Bernie.
Yeah, I hope he gets inducted. Like,
I think he should.
Yeah.
Well, he did. Actually.
Okay,
he did already. I don't think he was there.
Oh,
it might
gotcha.
it might have been one of those deals he wasn't able to make it, but I don't know.
Yeah, and like they were still working together as today. So
yeah, they were just like they hadn't argued for like a whole They never had a fight or some shit like that.
That's amazing.
Which I got that from the movie, but I'm gonna call bullshit on that.
Yeah.
You tour with people, you're just gonna get mad at them and you're gonna fight with them.
Yeah, and especially with, I mean, that relationship where, you know, Elton's getting the fame, but, you know,
The rest of the guys are just like, well, yeah, there was that scene. They were about to go on stage, and he's like, I'm Elton fucking John. Who the hell are you? Something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
but I guess it all depends of like, do people care about the singer or the songwriter? You know what I mean? It's that classic debate, you know?
yeah, exactly. But all right, everybody. Tyler Conley, thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, dude,
appreciate
thanks for having
it.
me. This was a lot of fun. I'll be back anytime.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime. All right. OverDubs podcast episode. Did I said 4? Yeah,
I think
this was 4. Yeah. Later.